newspaper coverage by sharing her incendiary views on modern feminism. The New York Post called her the female Andrew Tate. So she tapped into genuine female pushback to the excesses of wokery, or is she just an attention seeker? We'll find out in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the clip that sent her viral.
A lot of people think I'm insane because I don't think women should vote. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for this opinion. If anything, this is probably my most extreme opinion. 90% of women have been on birth control. 1 out of 3 women has had an abortion. 1 out of 3 women has an STD. Average body count is over 5.
What's up, YouTube? Today we're covering one of the most biggest feminist debates. So, let's get into it, shall we? Well, without further ado, everybody.
Wife has slept with over 5 people. 95% of women are not virgins on their wedding days. So I understand the complaint.
OK, well, Pearl joins me now alongside political journalist Ava Santini, who was nodding furiously along there to everything she heard. Right, Pearl, you've be called the female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
Well, I take it as a compliment. You know, I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
Of everything he says?
It depends what we're talking about. But overall, I think he's got a good message. I think he's good for young men. OK, look, you're talking about women predominantly, which is why you've got this big following. And your view is that modern feminism is deeply flawed. I would argue a lot of your proposals, like taking the vote away from women, are deeply regressive. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to remove, just from yourself, the right to vote? Well, what happened was I had the same view, right? Back when I started, I was like, why? I found out that only 5% of women wanted the right to vote. And I couldn't figure out, like, why would women not? No, it's true. It's true. You look it up.
At the time?
At the time.
Because they've been conditioned by men to think that they shouldn't have a vote.
I mean, that's what they say. But, you know, I started...
You've been given a false sense of history, ladies. One of the biggest arguments that was counting Susan B. Anthony's claims of wanting the right to vote for women was, hey, you ladies want the right to vote, but you don't want the responsibility that goes with it, aka being drafted into the military. That was basically one of the biggest debates. And that's the part of history that a lot of women don't want to study up on. Yeah. Personally, I'm not going to go all in with Pearl. Like, I don't go really all in anything. I don't put all my eggs in one basket. But I will agree that I think giving women the benefits of equality and not the responsibilities is pretty much the reason why we're here. Like, I'm willing to bet that, like, hey, if we gave women, if we say, hey, you want equality, okay, but here's the thing, you're going to be given all the male responsibilities that go with it, we would be living in a completely different world. We would be.
Right, and what I found out was that the reason a lot of women advocated for it was because they believed it was the beginning of the breakdown of the family. You know, before you became one in marriage, 85% of people were married. And, you know, I hate to say it, but they were right. What has happened 100 years later?
Well, what's that going to do with them having the vote?
Well, it also goes back to responsibility. Again, men are 80 to 90% of the military. They run all of the infrastructures that make society run. So I just think if we want an equal say in society, then be equal. Do 50% of the hard jobs. Be 50% of the military. In the U.S., they're fined $250,000 if they don't join selective service, which is essentially the draft.
Okay, but specifically on the vote, what would having the right to vote have to do with family cohesion, for example?
Well, because again, before you weren't trying to divide a family. It was one family unit. You had one vote for the family. I mean, I don't think it's good for a family to have 2 votes.
Ava, your mouth seems to have dropped about 3 feet.
I know.
It's just sort of a bit galaxy brain. I feel like, you know, the stats that you're putting down are perhaps correct in some universe.
Which stats?
They just kind of don't really add up. I mean, just to take you back to the to the women's writings that you've allegedly read. I mean, at
allegedly?
The time, well,
what do you mean allegedly?
At the time that you're talking about, you know, women weren't really allowed to write. They weren't allowed to go to school.
Yes, they were.
Write.
Yes, they were. That's incorrect. The first female property owner was in the 1600s. The idea that women couldn't work and couldn't.
I'm so sorry, but that would be inherited property.
Okay, once again, feminist is trying to rewrite history. Someone who actually read history is trying to correct it, and feminists trying to shut it down. Yes, there were plenty of female property owners. There were plenty of female leaders. A few examples for you. Nefertiti, Queen of Egypt, Queen Victoria, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Queen in this day and age. And you know what every one of those female leaders have in common? You know what they all had? Well, the moment they got a high leadership position, they stopped serving the will of the people and started serving their own self-best interest. That's what happened. But yeah, sure, let's try to get more women in leadership. By all means, yeah. I'm not saying it's sexist, I'm just saying I'm looking at the overall track record here. That's all. That literally is.
The first female millionaire was in the late 1800s.
And was that inherited?
No, it wasn't. It was self-made.
Yes,
it was.
Self-made.
Yes, it
and
was.
She never inherited land.
Yes, she did not
inherit it.
inherit
What law permitted that?
What?
What law permitted that?
Well, there was no law. I mean, there's always been women that were influential in history.
Let's get on to the vote. So what I don't understand is, a part of your message, I've researched you today, and hang on a minute.
Okay.
Your big push is that you care about men and you don't think that men are getting enough of a say. But
I care about
hang
women
on,
too.
I haven't made the point yet.
Okay.
Because of feminism, okay? What I wonder is when you start making calls out like repeal the 19th, women shouldn't be allowed to vote, how is that helping young men? Because these young men have women in their lives, they have mothers, they have sisters, they have teachers, and they turn around, they don't know how to act around women because you're giving them license to be misogynistic.
I wouldn't call it misogynistic. I say be equal. So again, men do all of
the
the
feminists are
Well,
saying.
then okay, I'd love for the feminists, please apply for the oil rigs. Please go do the hard jobs in society. They're
don't you
open,
go and
they're
work there?
hiring because I don't equate I don't think men or women are equal until we do the
Right.
equal work. So no, listen. Go apply to be on the oil rigs. Go be a plumber, go be an electrician, go be on the front lines of the military, and then we should have equal rights. But until feminists are willing to do that, I don't believe we should have the freedom without the responsibility.
Okay, well, I don't think that I'm physically built for that. You might be, but I'm absolutely
That's
not.
a bit-
You
Wow.
said you were
Wow.
a volleyball.
Wow.
You said you were a volleyball player, and so you've got more strength than I do. I don't think
But
that
I don't
can
have more
do
strength.
those
I don't have
jobs.
more strength
But
than
I'm
the
not
average
take your
man.
right away to
I don't
do
have
it.
I don't have more strength than the average man. But again, it goes back to go be a plumber. You want to be equal, go be
That's
equal.
not
Also,
what I
you also, but you want divorce to be made illegal.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, because I don't think what we have today is really marriage. What is marriage? It's for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. That's what marriage is supposed to be. But feminists have ruined marriage for the people that actually believe in marriage.
How?
When there's a 50% divorce rate and the average marriage
Why is that all down
8
to the
years.
women, though?
I didn't say that it was all down to the women.
So why
But
feminists ruin it?
you asked why I want divorce to be banned.
Yeah.
Can I finish
Yeah.
that first? So I'm saying, the people that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
But doesn't the sanctity of marriage also rely on the woman being a virgin? So you wouldn't be able to get married.
What do you mean?
Well, you've spoken quite openly about how you're not a virgin, and so if you want to preserve that sanctity of marriage, then I just think that you're upholding standards that you don't actually live by.
And that's a fair complaint. I wish I was. But, we can't go back. I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, but I just don't think it's fair that you get to be here and you get to be paid for your views, and you're telling other women that they shouldn't be allowed to.
I think
and they should abide by some-
Hang on. Okay, if I may, at some stage jump in. Isn't the whole point of being a feminist, though, that women are entitled to have their own views?
Absolutely. And
So she's perfectly entitled to her views.
Yeah, but you can't.
You might not like them.
But I'm here to challenge
But isn't she
them.
exercising her right as a...
Here's an idea. I think what Pearl's doing is that, saying, I see so many feminists say one thing, but they actively do another. Got news for you, ladies. If your words do not line up with your actions, that is a lie. You're lying to people. Words not lining up with actions is literally a means of deception. That's what it is. As for divorce, well, yeah, I can see Pearl's point on this too. Because women do make up the majority of people filing for divorce. Women keep saying, hey, what about the women who are trapped in there? And ladies, you do realize no one forced you to marry that man. No one did. You agreed to sign that marriage contract 100% on your own free will. No one forced you to do it. Nobody did. If marrying this guy was if this guy was abusive, if you knew what he was abusive, you could have said no to his proposal. You didn't have to say yes. You could have said no. But you didn't. You still signed that marriage contract 100% on your own free will. And that is on you, ladies. That is not on the man. If the man turns out to be abusive, well, guess what? You still signed that marriage on your own free will. You agreed to be married to him. Whether you like it or not, that was your choice. It was not the man's involvement. It was your choice at the end of the day to agree to be in an abusive marriage. It was.
No, I am not.
Really?
No, don't go that far.
You don't want to be a feminist?
No, because I think if feminists really believed in equality, but you guys don't, I would love for you. There is an oil rig hiring. There is an engineering
I would actually
firm
love to
hiring.
see Ava Satin on an oil rig.
No, seriously. There is a building being built next to my building. Go do it, feminists. Go do it. And me,
Paul,
I'm
doing
saying
the same job that I'm doing right now.
When you find the man you want to get married to, are you saying you will be with that man whatever happens the rest of your life?
Yes, for the vows that we're supposed to live
How do you
by.
know you can keep them?
I mean, I think it's a choice. And that's the thing, like, women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness. The most important thing is the children. And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kids.
Ava, I've got to say, it's a little bit listening to Andrew Tate where some of it I really don't agree with. I don't agree with the vote stuff. When I hear things like that, I think there'll be a lot of people, especially older generation women perhaps, who think, you know what, she's got a point.
Well, I mean, I believe in agency, so I think that if a woman is going to look after her children in divorce, that's absolutely fine. I also believe in your right to speak your mind about it. What I don't understand...
I'd like to
what
say,
I don't
even
understand,
before the 1920s,
do you know what I mean?
women could speak openly. This idea that, like, women couldn't talk the last 500 years, there have been women throughout
but the American
history
state
that
education system has failed before, and it's failing now.
There have been women throughout history that have read, written, and been very influential in society.
Okay.
So this idea like women could never do it.
Do you know
don't
what
believe
I don't understand though is when it gets spiteful, okay? Because you put down a few arguments that I think are perfectly, like, they're kind of evangelical and they're Christian, but those are your right to say it. What I don't understand is when it kind of seeps into this sort of, you call women fat, you say that they shouldn't have abortions, you say that they have STDs.
The question is, are they fat? Yes or no?
Why pass
the
that
average
kind of
American
judgment?
woman is 170 pounds. That's objectively overweight.
I mean, let's be honest. We now celebrate morbid obesity as some kind of body positive thing, and it is complete nonsense. So actually, on that point again, there's a bit of truth in
and
that.
this is the problem. This is the problem.
How have we come to celebrate morbid obesity as body positive?
Well, I have a shorter way to describe all this craziness from the feminist movement. You want men to pay and take responsibility for something a woman chose to do on her own behalf. That's what's going on here. And that's what you ladies are literally expecting. Not all of you, but a majority of you women here in the West, as a result of the feminist movement, you want choice. You do. And you have choice. But you want men to be the ones to take all the responsibility of the choices you ladies make on your behalf. Like, for example, you get pregnant. You want men, and you don't want to deal with the responsibility of being a mother. Okay. Well, guess what? There are plenty of there's like over 60 options for birth control. There is. You have access to give your child up for adoption straight from out of the womb. You do. But instead of utilizing any of those, I see so many of you ladies want men to continue manufacturing the surgical tools for your abortions. Because, hey, if you get pregnant and you don't want to deal with the responsibility of that, you want men to deal with it. But here's something here's a little talking point I would like to repeat before we end this. Since women have over 60 different types of birth control to utilize, men only have access to 2. One is a flimsy piece of rubber that can be sabotaged by anybody. The other is a permanent, life-changing surgery. Then shouldn't the majority of the responsibility for consensual-based sex go to the people who have the majority of the options for birth control at their disposal? Did you ladies ever thought about that? I think that's something to think about.